been trying to walk through this a little bit in the sense that we're giving you this concept, and there are about 5 parts to this concept. And a couple Saturday nights ago, we began with the first one, which was the purpose. You will note as he gives verse 34, he says, all these things Jesus spoke to them in parables, and without a parable he did not speak to them. That's a purpose clause. So that immediately introduces you into why Jesus has spoken in parables, and he didn't speak to them at all without speaking them into parables, and the reason for that, the purpose of that, he is about to give you. And he says that the purpose is that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet. And of course, the depth of that is that the word fulfill is the Greek word plero, which has the idea of container and content. So this is a container, and the content is now filling up this container. In other words, the prophecy that was given to you in Psalms chapter 78, verse 2, is now being filled up by what Jesus is doing. In other words, that bespeaks the whole idea of a plan. That, and you never can get away from this, that God has this overwhelming, significant plan, and it is all coming down in prophecy, being fulfilled. In other words, the prophecy bespeaks the idea that this is not happen chance. Jesus just isn't doing this just on a whim. This isn't just, felt like it might be a neat thing. This is a distinct, plotted out plan and desire of God all the way through, prophesied clear back in the psalm, now being fulfilled in this scene. That's significant, people. And if you and I could see our lives in light of that there is a distinct plan of God for your life, and the prophecies are literally being fulfilled in you. If I could convince you tonight that your name is literally written in the book, and a plot and a plan is literally being played out in regard to your life, that you are that significant in what God is wanting to do. That would cause you to straighten your shoulders and get your head up high. That would change the direction. All the things that upset us wouldn't upset us anymore, because something bigger would be going on, and it's, of course, the plan of God. So he says the whole purpose of this thing is, and listen, when you get down, when things grind you, when pressures come, when day in and day out it just goes on like it always goes on, you've got to live in this. This is what brings you through. The overwhelming fact that there is a sovereign God who has an overwhelming plan, and you are in the middle of that plan, and he is literally fulfilling that plan in and through you. And what you are going through in this hour is not just happen chance, didn't just happen to come by. It is literally a fulfillment of the dream of God for your hour. And if you say, well, hey, that may be right for good things, but it can't be right for bad things, you are dead wrong, because all of chapter 12 is a mess. It is a conflict between the Pharisees and Jesus, even to the point of plotting death, how they're going to kill him. And yet this is all fulfilled in the prophecy. So this whole idea of purpose really becomes significant. And I want to tell you that the plan of God, he wants to reveal his plan to you. And you cannot miss his divine will unless you want to. Now, if you want to, hey, I don't know what to tell you. But if you really want his will, if you really want the plan, you can't miss it. He will not allow it. Okay, so the second idea that we want to get into tonight is the parentage idea. So a part of the concept is there's the purpose he distinctly gives us in that it might be fulfilled, and then he moves us into this parentage idea, which is in Psalm 78, verse 2, which is quoted here. I will open my mouth in parables. There is a birthing thing going on, and the parables are literally being birthed out of the mouth of Jesus. Which, if you say then that the purpose is an overwhelming plan of God that is being fulfilled, and now it's being fulfilled through the lips of Jesus, then what's coming out of the lips of Jesus in terms of prophecy, in terms of parables, is literally being fulfilled and is born out of the will of God himself. So I want to give you several ideas on that as we try to walk through this. One is the idea of sourcing. So the idea of sourcing in chapter 78 of Psalms, verse 2, becomes very, very apparent. If you would go back, you don't need to, but if you would go back to Psalm 78, verse 2, you would find, obviously before that, he introduces that in this phenomenal verse 1, and I want to read it to you. God is saying in verse 1, "Give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the word of my mouth. I will open my mouth in parables." Now, Israel, if you get into the Psalms itself, has backslid and is in terrible trouble. So God is coming and giving them a word of both encouragement and warning. And in that warning, you begin to see the cry of God for Israel. And as you, let me read that first verse again. He's crying out, this is the cry of God. He's crying out and saying, "Give ear, O my people, to my law." Come on, hear what I'm saying to you. Give ear. Listen, folks. Hey! It's that kind of a deal. The second part of that is incline. See, he's saying the same thing twice. Incline your ear to the words of my... Hey, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. Listen to me. This is not, hey, go read the Bible. No, I'm talking to you. This is not, go off and listen to a sermon. I'm talking to you. Hey, listen to me. I'm talking to you. It's coming out of my mouth, God says. Incline your ear. Listen to me. Don't shut down on me. Don't turn your hearing aid off. See, that's the impact of what is being said in this tremendous psalm. Then you have this verse, "I will open my mouth in parables." So what you would conclude is that these parables are sourced right out of the mouth of God himself as Jesus speaks them, because he is desperate to communicate. Now, another thing that's really important in Psalms chapter 78, verse 2, as given here, quoted here, is the word "I" is there twice. In other words, "I will open," so the verb has it, but it's there separate, which is emphatic, which really highlights the idea of God himself. So in the verse, you've got I will open. So it's a double emphasis focusing on the person of God. Now, you understand that how you listen to someone is determined by how you value their input. Let me give it to you again. You recognize that how you listen to an individual is determined by how much you value their input in your life. See, I'm dying of cancer. I go to the top cancer specialist in the country, and man, I listen. I go to the surgeon and I say, "Hey, surgery? Yes. How many times have you done this?" He says, "I've done this 1,525 times. I can handle it." I'm going to listen to him. If he says, "I've never really tried it yet. You're my first one. I'm not." See, your listening level is determined by how much you value the one who is speaking to you. Now, bring that into our passage. How much do you value the input of God in your life? Let me give you 3 ideas. 1, method. In the passage, God is not hiding. This is not a riddle, and you got to figure it out. See, that's not what's going on in the passage. When you come into the passage, it's a broadcasting idea. It's not like an announcement, but it's blaring, loud, forceful. See, the very statement, I will open my mouth, that coming out of the interior of the heart of God is this broadcasting of truth and revelation that he definitely, distinctly, how he desires to communicate to you. See, he's not giving you theology. He's giving you parables, simple stories. Why? I really want to communicate to you. I really want you to get this. I'm desperate that you will understand. I want you to. See, he's not giving you, he's not speaking truth in unknown language. He's speaking in your language on your street. Do you know how forceful this is? This is what Jesus is all about. See, God did not remain in the sky, ladies and gentlemen, and yell out truth and wonder why you didn't understand it. He took on flesh and walked in our shoes and came down and talked our language and lived in our scene and communicated on our level. That's his method. Jesus is the final and that's what's happening here. He is opening his mouth, speaking parables in our language, cultural stuff, farming stuff. Sower goes out to sow the seed, talking our language. Why? He desperately wants to communicate to you. How much do you value his input in your life? How much am I listening? How important is what he has to say? How influential is his input? Isn't it sad when I know more about what Dr. Phil has to say than Jesus? And the method by which he comes to speak it is so on your level that you cannot miss it. There's no way. You can ignore it, but you can't miss it. You can say no to it, but you can't say I didn't hear it. You can say I'm not going to follow it, but you can't say I didn't understand it. Because that's the way he communicates. Let me give you a second idea. Motive. This is being sourced out of the mouth of Jesus, and the method by which he's speaking it is simplistic parables, which means the motive for all of this is he desperately wants you to know. How am I going to convince you of that? That in the whole dynamic of what's going on in the chapter, he is not trying to camouflage. He is not trying to hide. He's not trying. That's what he said over in the beginning of the chapter in his explanation. He's not trying to cover over. He's not revealing to some people and not others. He has a desperation within him. The motive is that he wants the Pharisees to understand what they have never understood or have refused to understand up to this point. He wants you to know. And then you ask the question, well, how far would he go to communicate? Talk to me about how far God has gone in your life to get through to you about truth. Tell me how again and again and again and again and again and again he has communicated truth. Tell me about chapter 12. The grain field, and there must have been others involved, other scenes involved that we don't even have recorded in chapter 12, but the grain field scene where they picked grain and they got all bent out of shape and Jesus tried to communicate truth to them. They go to the synagogue, a withered hand is healed by Jesus, and they get all bent out of shape. They go and plot how they're going to kill them. I would have written them off. Would you not have? I would say, I'm not preaching there again. Would you not have? Would you not have wiped the dust from your feet and said, hey, do you realize you have no right to hear the truth of God ever again until everybody in the world has heard it at least once? And yet you have sat Sunday after Sunday, Saturday after Saturday, service after service after service through your life and heard it again and again and again and again and again and again. But that's the way he is, isn't it? He just won't quit. Jesus just won't shut up. The sermons are always long. Hallelujah. Isn't that phenomenal? And here he is with the Pharisees, and he just won't quit. He just won't back off. He just won't give it up. How far will he go? Oh, we could just tell story after story. Thomas says, hey, resurrection, I don't believe that. I won't believe that Jesus is resurrected until I put my hand in the wounds. Guess what happens? Jesus shows up and says, help yourself. I dare you, I triple dare you to look Jesus in the eye and say, hey, talk to me. Reveal to me. You can't stop him. That's the passage. He has come and he will not quit. So there's the method. It's coming right out of his mouth in a deep desire. The motive is that he deeply desires and wants you to know. And the manner is he just will not quit. Because he wants you to know. Jesus, you've done that in my life, haven't you? It didn't matter how many times I snubbed you. It didn't matter how many times I shut you down. It didn't matter how many times I ignored your yelling in my ear. You just kept coming. I want to apologize to you, Jesus. Because I have slapped you in the face as divine revelation flowed. I valued my own opinion more than yours. I clung to my own selfish desires instead of listening. I walked in my own path instead of valuing your direction. I don't have a right tonight to ask you to speak to me again. I have heard enough. Forgive me. Forgive me for the games I play. Forgive me for the inconsistencies of listening and not listening. Forgive me for hearing what I want to. Forgive me for the filter that I've developed in my own heart, where I channel what you say through that filter and make it say what I want it to say. Forgive me, God. When I listen to what's conducive to what I want and push aside that and resist that which is not what I want to hear. Bring me, dear Jesus, into a state of listening in openness, because you are the most valuable voice speaking in my life. So here I am again tonight. Will I hear you? Will I hear you? Will I hear you? Heads are bowed. He is speaking. The source is his heart. It's coming through his lips to your heart. Will you open? Will you respond? He will yell louder. He will not quit. Moments of listening. Our altar's open. Be obedient.